As a leader in the grief space, I've cared for and supported families and communities for over 20 years. This show dives into the journey and experiences all of us will most certainly encounter in life. Welcome to the Guiding Grief podcast, where we discuss grief and explore opportunities for growth and connection. I'm your host, Nicholas Welzenbach, and this is Guiding Grief on KCAT TV. Welcome back to the Guiding Grief podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Welzenbach. We are so excited to have you back today as we are working through our Talking About Tomorrow series. Today's guest, Mani Mortezaei with Tailored Transition from RE/MAX. He's the Director of Sales and Marketing and truly does amazing work for a specific group of individuals in our community. Mani, thank you so much for being on today.
You're welcome, Nicholas. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about what we do and how we can help.
You know, as we work through Guiding Grief and we think about the different things that provide individuals the grief journey, right? And most often we think about it on this podcast as it relates to the transition from this world to whatever's next.
Yes.
There are so many things that are wrought with grief in our life. And one of the things, many of the things that you deal with at Tailored Transitions is selling a home, helping loved ones move into a place that's better suited for their age, time, and that journey of their life.
Yep.
And then the actual move, transition, and all those things. So I just want to give the floor to you, share what it is that you love about what you do, and then we'll just break it down and learn about how you've become the expert in your space.
Well, thank you. Yes. So yeah, kind of similar to what you help families with, but before they transition to the afterlife, we are helping seniors and their family members transition to a life that can make their life safer and provide them with socialization and meals, and ideally try to prevent a crisis from happening. But unfortunately, I think half or a little less than half of our clients do wait until a crisis happens, which I don't blame them. I think most people don't grow up and have a goal that they need to sell their house and downsize as they get older. And, you know, right. the goal in life is to upsize and get a bigger house and have more stuff. But it gets to a point where physical limitations can cause problems. A lot of times we have clients that call us after they have fallen. Unfortunately, the home is no longer safe. It could be stairs or just slipping, but you know, sometimes they'll be already in a skilled nursing facility recovering from those falls. And we are still happy to help. And of course, we all wish we could have helped before. But again, everyone's timeline is different. So
I know you mentioned that before crisis and after crisis. And when we were talking earlier, having coffee, I loved the fact that the majority of the families you actually get to serve are doing this before crisis.
Yes.
My assumption would have been that it would have been a reaction to a crisis and not responding to a need. And I think it's wonderful that so many of the individuals have the ability to see that. Of that larger majority, who is it coming from? Is it coming from mom and dad that need help, or is it coming from children that are leading in it on the before crisis side?
Yeah, so the before crisis side, I would say maybe 3 out of 4, it's coming from mom and dad. I'll get the call from mom or dad, and they may not be both very excited about it, but they know it's time and they want to do this to keep their life safer and more simpler for when health and different crises come into play. The other 1 out of 4 times, it would be the daughter or the son that's calling me and saying, I want, you guys to help my mom.
I can see this. There's something that's coming, and so many of the things that bring grief into somebody's universe, which is that crisis.
Right.
And if someone's seeing it in advance.
Yes. But
it doesn't mean that 1 out of 4, that, on the other side of that mom and dad or, the partners in that situation are thinking to themselves, I want to leave where I've been for 30 or 40 years.
Right.
Right? I mean, you're dealing with the biggest piece of grief. I have lived where I've lived for 11 years. I think unwinding where I live would be the most daunting task of my life.
I agree. And moving is very stressful. It ranks up there with getting divorced, losing loved ones, losing a job. Moving for anyone is very difficult. And for our seniors, it's a lot more difficult because of emotions, because of, like what you mentioned, they've lived in their home with these items that they love. There's a reason they're still there for 20, 30, up to 70 years. We have clients that have lived in their home for 70 years. So imagine not only having to move, but to leave a lot of that behind.
Just the emotional connection with walking in that door.
Absolutely. There's emotional, and then there's practical. So we help with every item in the house, whether they move it or leave it behind. But we have to also be sensitive to the emotional part of it. And we can't just come in and say, here's what we're doing, and we're selling this, and you're donating that. It's different for every family. Sometimes we only spend 1 hour with them and it's too emotional, and we come back and revisit things. But you want to keep the ball rolling. We want to help them move to a new home that's safer. There's a reason they're doing this, right? But before we even get to the practical side of making a decision or packing an item, we have to respect the emotions and let them feel those emotions. A lot of time it's nervous and scared and anxious, but sometimes it's also happy, because we encourage our families to focus on the present and the future and the next chapter in your life, which can help you when dealing with these emotions.
I imagine in that tailored transition, which I love the name because it's so appropriate for all that you've described, and we want to make sure that we focus on all the things that you help to tailor. I think a lot of the times when you're living in that, individuals are living in that home, that creature comfort, that familiarity, what they might be missing is community. And I mentioned to you that my folks lived in the neighborhood I grew up in, and then our neighborhood that we grew up in became who they were when they moved into it. It was it was a nice school district. It was great back in Kansas, where I'm from. And then they found themselves, there was no one in their community. Everyone was their children's age, with their grandchildren's age, and they were looking left and right thinking, they're all wonderful, but I need someone to talk to that might understand my perspective of life.
In their world.
And you can do that, whether it is downsizing someone's home into maybe a better community that you'd help nurture that journey, or also getting into a local, I want to make sure I use the word right. If we were talking about the terraces, or Starmark, what are those? What's the best way to refer to that community?
So a community like the terraces would be a CCRC, Continuing Care Retirement Community, and there's also a lot of other communities that are termed assisted living or retirement community. CCRCs have the buy-in, which is an entry fee on top of a monthly, where the other communities are more just like a monthly fee, like a 30-day month-to-month type lease.
And when folks move in, the great part that you've also shared is that, okay, I'm going to help you find this new home, this new place that we can move your things and we can settle you. But we're not necessarily going to sell your house tomorrow, because you're going to be that enormous asset that so many people are fortunate to have. Wish it was a problem that more folks had, which is being able to own their own home. But with that home, that's what's going to fund much of this.
Yes,
but
sir.
You don't want to fund something if they get there and a month later they're thinking to myself, this is not my new home.
Right. Yeah. So with all of our clients, we have a free consultation, and we say, let's make sure that wherever you move, you like it. Because if we show up, and if your daughter or your son, and we're all sitting there saying, you're going to move and we're going to sell your house, that's very scary. You feel trapped.
Right.
And let's be real, what if you don't like it and now you have sold your house? So what are your options? So with us, we're very patient with our services. You can use them in any order, which is why I love our name as well. It's tailored to our clients' needs and their timeline. It's usually, let's help you pack, move, unpack, and settle. And then the term downsizing comes into play, which is, everything that you don't take with you, we can help you on your timeline, sell it, donate it, or have those items hauled away. And usually, we've done this about 475 times. So usually it takes about a month or so for us to get that green light, which means I'm happy here. Let's go ahead and clear out my house, and then prep it for selling.
Giving someone the appropriate amount of time to say goodbye to a lifetime of memories, right?
Absolutely.
And have that be somebody else's domicile for their future. We go through it every Christmas and birthday in our own home, where, our children Audrey and Lachlan want new and whatever
Yes.
things, but not without a purge, right?
Right.
So this,
Right.
what do you want to keep? What do you want to throw away? And what are you unsure about? And how can we get this to somebody else that you no longer play with this, but it could be somebody else's next thing. It's different than
It's hard.
coaching an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Correct. Because believe it or not, they're still in charge. It's their stuff.
Yeah.
And same
Yeah.
with the seniors. You know, you have a daughter kind of telling you what to do, and it feels like they're your mom, but we're neutral professionals. We're not here to tell people what to do with their stuff, but we are here to keep the ball rolling, to make sure that they stay safe and that there's a reason they want to move to the next home. And we're not here to slow that down. And we're very patient. We have families that have family members that live all across the country, and they might want 6-7 months time for their family members to come in and go through the house. So whatever they want to do is fine with us. You can sell your house with us 1 year down the road or later if you'd like. But our goal is really just to help with the transition first, and then see how everything else plays out in terms of clearing the house, downsizing, and selling.
And a lot of that, you know, when we know what happens, we think we know what happens when we sell a house, and the litany of paperwork that's associated with it, and this goes to this person, this goes to this person, and all the entities. But the thing that we've talked about, that you've shared about tailored transitions, is there's 100+ hours
Yes.
of work that is
Yes.
being done that's included in this relationship.
Yes.
Which is huge for a family to be like, this is the benefit of this partnership.
Yes, that's our team, our move managers that spend about 100 hours or more. And this is as much planning as we can do to help our clients sleep at night. Let them know that there's a team, that this is all that we do. We can help you with all of this. Take a lot of stress off of your plate. They're actually in there taking measurements, and then we are planning the move on paper before we even pack anything, so they could see where the furniture goes, so they can envision the new space. But then again, there's a lot of emotion involved, as we mentioned, so they are spending a lot of time also just helping our clients making these tough decisions. If you have an item that you're torn, I don't know if I'm going to keep it or sell it or maybe revisit it, we talk to them. How do these items make you feel? When's the last time you used these items? Would you be happy if your sister or your nieces and nephews had these items? And kind of guiding them through that process, asking those questions, helps our clients make a decision ultimately, as a lot of their items will not be moving with them since they're moving to a smaller place.
Right. You mentioned the king size bed inside of the new small 2-bedroom space.
King size bed.
That's your whole bedroom in this new space.
And now we're talking fire hazard and mobility issues. A huge dining room table with 8 chairs. Those most likely won't go. So also helping with those decisions and ordering smaller furniture. Just because we don't want to move you to your new place after you've lived in a home for 35 years and it's a disaster and it's stressful and it's crowded. That's not a good, way to start.
If you're shimmying past, this giant 4-poster bed.
Right.
And you're like, gosh, we really should have helped you, because maybe that's why you're not enjoying this new place.
Exactly.
Because you come into it and you're seeing something you love, but it's in the wrong space.
Yes.
And I think about how often I make lists, which is a lot, about any decision I'm making as it relates to business or otherwise. And the list of the positives is always longer than the negative ones.
Right.
But the negative ones are associated typically with the emotion of, that's where I've slept for all these years and I want to keep it.
Yep.
Versus, it provides me more space to downsize. It does this,
Right.
but it's just that emotional connection to something, which that's a tough thing to navigate.
It is. There's a reason you love it, and there's a reason you've used it for so long. And sometimes we say, I think it served its purpose, right? And let's have someone else use that item and have it serve its purpose again. A lot of the similar things that we run into is like everything in the kitchen. All of your plates and your silverware, you don't need all that anymore if you're moving to a community where they're providing you with meals. But there's a lot of families that are just getting started that would love to have those items. And ultimately, our clients just don't want their stuff thrown away, which we also don't want to be thrown away. It needs a new life. So if you can't sell it you'll probably be able to donate it, unless it's chemicals and paints, things like that. Obviously, we take those to the dump, and things that have information like your social accounts and things like that, we'll shred those. You're not going to re-gift those.
But you're navigating even the elimination of vital information. Like,
yes.
Okay, we're taking this over to Red Dog here in San Jose, and we're going to make sure that no one can put these numbers together as it relates to your safety.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny, the terms that we use. So I say we are a one-stop shop. My clients, they're in their 80s, say, oh, you guys do soup to nuts, right?
Yeah.
And then the adult children are just like, you guys take care of everything. So we do, because to ultimately sell the house, we do have to address every single item on the property. And so either it's going to move with our clients, or we're going to help them sell it or donate it or have it hauled away. But every item our team can help with.
Right. I as you're talking through the kitchen items, it just brings back this nostalgia from my childhood home. And I'm with my siblings. We all talk about the things that we want from our house that have transferred to our folks' new home. And it is all things, for those that are listening that understand what a green stamp is, it is all the items that were purchased by green stamps when my mom and dad were starting their life in the Midwest. I think it was all over the country, but you would have these little stamps when you would purchase things at the grocery store. And then you could save up and buy from a catalog. And it's the high chair that all of our children have sat in.
Right.
So it's the little sugar thing. I think it has burn marks in it from being too close to the stove. But when we think affectionately about the things that are our home,
right?
It is all of the things that we remember using as a child. It's not all you mentioned Ethan Allen. It's not the Ethan Allen couch.
Right. Right.
I don't want your stuff. I don't want your style in my home.
Yes.
We can help somebody else find it. But it is so wild that we know what we loved as a kid.
Sure.
And usually it's like, okay, the asset of the house being sold, but really there's the heartstring, which is great when you get to work with the family. Right?
Exactly.
Not just mom and dad and the partners inside that home, but son and daughter and all the extended family that should be involved, and making sure that finds the right home.
Yep. And there's items like that are not negotiable, that they want to, we're shipping furniture across the country, which would cost a lot more than buying new furniture, but this furniture's been in the family for generations, so those are non-negotiable items that we can help.
Just gotta find a new home.
Exactly.
Well, we are, Manny, just gonna take a brief break.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening to our Talking About Tomorrow series on guiding grief with Mani Mortezaei and Tailored Transitions. We're so excited to bring back this extended conversation. We're going to go into some anecdotal information associated with some of the things that Manny has navigated in his career, helping individuals 400 plus times, nearly 500 times, making sure that he's taking care of a family from beginning to end in these very, very delicate transitions. Thank you to Darlene Fisher and Los Gatos Memorial Park for being our sponsors, and we'll be back with you before you know it. I'd like to take an opportunity and pause just to thank our sponsors, Darlene Fisher and Los Gatos Memorial Park, celebrating lives one story at a time. As members of the community here in Campbell, San Jose, and Los Gatos, it has been an honor to care for so many of the loved ones of our community, and we are so grateful for your trust. That's why we're supporting this podcast, Guiding Grief, and bringing your community information about how to heal. Welcome back to Guiding Grief and our Talking About Tomorrow series. We're sitting here with Mani Mortezaei from Tailored Transitions here in our Silicon Valley, helping our community. We're so excited, Manny. Let's continue this second half of talking about, we talked about what you get to do.
Sure.
Right? Get to being the optimal word, because you found yourself into this years ago, which you shared with me earlier, and you love it.
I do.
But it is like the actual events that have reassured what you're doing, why you're doing it. Because I imagine no matter how difficult the journey was to get someone from their childhood home or from the home that they raised their own children in into a CCRC
or assisted living.
That at the end of it, there is the peace of mind that I've done right by this couple, I've done right by these children, and I've helped to sell the most valuable asset in most families' lives to help fund that transition or their future. That's enormous.
Yeah, that's why I love what we do. We get clients that are doing this for so many different reasons. So when people call me, I always ask, why are you doing this? Or they might say it right away. So for instance, I might get a call like I did a couple weeks ago from our client's sister who's in Chicago. And she told me her sister has fallen in her home in Half Moon Bay and broke her hip. And their home already had chair lifts built into the home for the staircases. So they try to make their home as safe as possible. They've lived in there for over 37 years.
Massive investment.
Big time. I imagine. Yes. And that's, you have to remove that and fix everything when you go to sell that. But that's not what they were concerned about. But they wanted to stay home. And unfortunately, she fell and broke her hip. Now she's at a skilled nursing facility in Pacifica. She's never stepped foot inside of an assisted living or a CCRC or any retirement community. But she cannot get discharged until she moves directly.
She finds one of those facilities to go to.
So sisters coming from Chicago to identify and look at some of those options. And a week before the discharge and the move was supposed to happen, unfortunately, her husband had a cardiac arrest at home and passed away.
Oh my.
And so put yourself in her shoes. Her world is already upside down. She's about to move to a community she's never stepped foot in. And then she just lost her husband. And this is what I consider, it's a crisis, major crisis. It's a crisis move.
Yeah. With compounded grief.
Absolutely.
Right. I'm in a hospital. I've lost my husband. I have to move. I'm not going to be in my own home.
Right.
Right. You're navigating a relationship that will change you forever.
Absolutely. And dealing with her family and FaceTiming and just trying to use technology the best way we can to do what we usually would take 100 hours to do, but to still make the move, happen first of all and seamless. And I'm not going to sit here and say had they moved before, her husband would have not had a cardiac arrest. But if they would have done some planning and made this move before, it would have just made it a little easier and less stressful for everyone, because there's already so much going on, and then you have a unfortunate death. And other situations that I see is...
Well, back to that. Sorry. Imagine if you're inside of that space, your ability for acute care associated with, I'm having heart palpitations, I'm having something happen. Now you're in a place that is not removed, that we've got to medevac somebody, or we've got to bring an ambulance in, because there's actually staff there that can triage something. And I only mention that as it relates to the benefit of being in a place that it might be safer, even if you're not ready mentally to be there, but maybe physically it's the best alternative as it relates to safety. Because, gosh, so many of the things you've talked about are stairs. Yeah. Stairs. Yeah. Living on a hill and stairs. Right.
Yeah. It's dangerous. It's usually falling, hitting your head, slippery floors. You look at these communities and this has all been thought out, right? So there's non-slip floors and they don't have all these stairs that you have to go over. So it does, I truly believe that your life is safer, and there's a team that's there to keep an eye on you. Yeah. That's why you're paying the big bucks to be there. And other situations, it's, maybe husband wants to do it and the wife does not, or vice versa, or they both don't want to do it, but they know they need to. The home itself is a lot. If you look at property taxes, maintenance, cooking, cleaning, just everything that comes in being a homeowner, it can become a lot. And when you look at these communities, there's socialization, they provide meals for you, there's care, there's excursions that they do. So a lot of our clients are also just isolated and lonely. And when they call me, we're on the phone for an hour to 2 hours, and
because they're at home in a place that provides them comfort. I think we were talking about this earlier, which was what unburdening, or the familiar is actually burdensome. Right. Because they're in this place that they love. Right. But they're not connected to anybody.
They're not. And they may want to do this, but they just look at the big picture, the whole house, all my stuff, 45 years, and they just never get started because they're overwhelmed. They don't know where to get started. So I encourage family members, to plan ahead. You don't have to decide to move next month or in a year, but plan ahead and start making decisions, start going through these emotions so that if and when that time comes for you and you do have to do this, it's less stressful. It's thought out and you've made your own decision and you're not just kind of going somewhere because this is how it happened.
The only alternative.
Exactly.
You also mentioned that CCRCs, right?
Yes.
Sometimes have a 2-year wait list.
They do.
So if you're not having a conversation with someone like Manny who's going to guide you through and share the assets of your entire team, you could want to be somewhere because you know it's going to be in your community.
Right.
But if you don't start yesterday,
exactly,
you might not be able to be on that wait list for 2 years, and you needed to be there, tomorrow.
Correct. And 2 things I just thought of when you said that. So that wait list for 2 years, yes, we're not going to help you pack and move or sell your house, but they do want to start downsizing. They do want to start getting rid of things and kind of freeing up space. And sometimes they might want to do some work on the property. So you sleep better at night and you're kind of doing this at a much easier, digestible.
It's phased, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to take this one chunk at a time,
exactly.
Right? How do you eat an elephant?
Right.
One bite at a time.
Exactly. And on the other side, unfortunately, we're not getting younger. So even though they might be thinking it's 2 years, it can be in 6 months, it could be in 2 months. And it's always better to be prepared that way as well.
I'm still shocked that it is the majority that are making that before crisis decision. And that comes from the perspective of being a funeral professional and
Sure.
wanting folks to prearrange and wanting folks to make plans and decisions in advance of need. But how difficult that conversation is about your own mortality, it's not dissimilar to the place that you've called home forever, because we don't want to leave there, even if it comes with loneliness.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the most important things in that transition and that guiding of finding that home. And the other part that we've talked about offline, but I want to focus on, is being in your actual community, because you've shared a story about how someone was moved out of the community that they lived in, but then they went halfway down the peninsula.
Right. Yeah.
And their neighbors, the people that they would have still seen, are not there.
Your friends, your social club, your doctors, the grocery store you've gone to for 30 years. You know these people. They see you. And so it's hard as you're doing this transition later in life to truly start over. But sometimes funds, determine that, and it ultimately wasn't her choice, I don't think, had she would have done this on her own or looked into these options before.
Right. Getting to a community's, several zip codes away.
Exactly.
Right.
And it happens sometimes. Let's say the adult children live in Fremont and the parents live here, but they have their own family and kids and full-time jobs, so it's hard for them to come visit on this side of the bay.
Right.
And so we're never saying it's right or wrong, but it's why they sometimes move somewhere that's all brand new for them.
Right.
Because ultimately the family wants to still visit them and be close and bring them, to where they're at.
It's just another thing on the list to navigate, right?
Yes.
Can I afford it? If I can't afford it, is it in the right community, or is that community close to my actual immediate family, my children, my grandchildren?
Right.
And what sacrifice am I moving if I move to a different community because I'm closer to them?
Yep.
Or do I pay more to be in a community? But this is part of the list. That's the litany of things that Tailored Transitions is going to provide, is making these assessments. Because if you've done it almost 500 times, maybe you haven't seen it all, but you've seen most of it, right?
We've seen a lot, and it's like what you said, we're almost doing life math, right? We want to make sure that you can afford the care for your future, make sure that you're aware of how much money you're going to be making when you sell your home. We want to make sure we sell your home for as much as possible, so we get the home, in good shape, can do work if we need to, but put it on the market, and just helping our families guide through this process. And a lot of times people call me and they're just, they're asking questions, and they might just be honest with me and say, I'm not doing this. I'm not selling this house. I hear sometimes I'm leaving my house feet first, which means, that they're transitioned to the afterlife. And I'm not pushy. I say, I totally understand that. I probably would be feeling the same way. But then they might call down the road because they tried other options to stay home, a reverse mortgage or home care, which I don't have anything bad to say. But sometimes home care becomes very expensive. If you need it 24 hours a day, you're looking at 20, 30 grand a month. And then they realize, okay, I can't afford this long term. Or a reverse mortgage, if, just make sure that you have equity still, you can still sell your home and pay for your future and for your care.
I think the wild thing is when someone's calling you and being like, hey, I know we've had these conversations, I'm not doing it. And you're like,
yes,
you called me.
Right. There's a reason you called, though, because
yes, you needed to start scratching at the surface.
And I love that because you're doing some planning ahead. I do downsizing seminars and people show up to them and I ask them, what are you thinking? What's your timeline? Some people say maybe 6 months or a year. Some people say, I'm just here to learn, right? Some people say 5, 7 years down the road. There's no wrong answer. And I think the sooner you, like with anything, the sooner you plan and do some research and prepare for it, it's a lot easier for everyone involved, easier for you to digest. And, aging is hard and there's not a playbook for everyone that says, when you turn 81, May 3rd, you should move to assisted living.
Right.
Everyone's lives are different, health, genes, luck. There's a lot that comes into play. So I'm always here to let families know that we would love to help, obviously, but we are also here to support you, provide you with resources that may be opposite of what we do. But my goal is to make sure that I feel like they're doing what's in their best interest for their health, to live longer, to be safe. And sometimes people just want to downsize because they just have too much stuff in their house. And I love that because it makes it easier down the road when there's a lot more going on.
Yeah.
So there's no right or wrong reason to look into this or to use us. And it's always on your timeline. But we just want to make sure that we don't wait too long because then when it's a crisis or it's injuries or dementia,
it's change hard. What could be 2 years into weeks and months.
Yes. Right. That's the other thing I love. People call me and say, in about a year or so, and we meet with them, 3-hour meeting, go over everything, and then they move in 6 weeks. And it's literally because they just didn't think this was possible.
Right.
Right. But they wanted to move.
And you have these actual stories of quality of life increase, right?
Yes.
I was ready to free myself of the burden of my home so that I could have a life. I shared with you beforehand, my folks moved into a community so that they could have community.
Right.
They just wanted more people that were going to be their age that they could have a chat with and understand them better than the new people that were on the street in the wonderful place I got to grow up. And I respect that. I think that's awesome. And your group, the RE/MAX Tailored Transitions group, started
2007.
2007. The vision that was associated with here's a niche in a market that really needs a lot of love and compassion and people that like yourself that are going to say, I'm going to see you through versus this is a transactional. It's not tailored transaction.
No.
It's tailored transition. This is huge. You're in for the long haul.
We're in for the long haul. And it was started by accident because we had a client that was 92 and had no friends or family and was moving to a CCRC in Palo Alto. Super excited, had her bags packed. I'm ready to do this. And our team had to hire movers, help her literally pack and unpack. And then we had to bring in all these services because you can't sell a house full of someone's stuff.
Right.
And that's when we realized there's a niche for this, especially in the Bay Area, as everyone's so busy, right? And their adult children have their own lives. And this is all we do. And this is all we focus on is serving our seniors and their adult children when they're making this later in life transition.
Man, I didn't even know it existed before we met, that there would be someone in some group that had the wherewithal to say, hey, we're going to make this experience, this tumultuous, awful experience better by thinking of all the things that you haven't thought of. To your point earlier, hey, 1 to 2 years from now, we want to be out of this. And then 6 weeks to, a couple of months,
right.
They've got a new life and they feel like they can actually live a bit more because they're not worried about, I grew up on an acre of land in a neighborhood full of houses all on an acre of land. My folks' lot line is now
right.
It's the width of a sod. And they just have so much more that they can do in their life because they're not tending to things that used to bring them joy,
right,
but then became laborious, right? This is just too much for me on a daily basis. I want what's the mahjong? My mom wants to play mahjong all day long. She needs friends and pals. It wasn't happening in the neighborhood I grew up in.
Exactly, and it's different for everyone. But I think encouraging people to appreciate the past and realizing maybe some of these items have served their purpose, but let's look at today and let's look at your future. You still have a life to live. And I would say most of our clients, once they do make this move in transition, yes, it's scary, and yes, it's a downsize, but it's no longer stressed about all the stuff they had to let go. It's more just like, I kind of wish I would have done this sooner, or I'm glad I did this now before someone made this decision for me.
Or it had to be made on behalf of, and now my partner was doing it without me.
Right.
Because we didn't get that peaceful time, or we didn't have that immediate triage and a CCRC of like someone being able to come in and help. Oh
Exactly.
There is so much more to talk about this. We are so privileged to have you on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. As the expert in a space that so many people in our community need to know exists. I'm going to part ways today with Mani, but I am so excited that Mani Mortezaei from Tailored Transitions was with us today on Guiding Grief on our series, Planning for Tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you'll take this information, you'll process it at home, you'll learn about the things that Mani and his team can do for you and your community, and just make sure that you're planning for the life that you want and not hoping that it just happens, because I'm certain that Mani can attest that it won't happen by accident. There needs to be difficult decisions made to transition into a new life that will better suit you at the time you are in. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Nicholas. I appreciate it.
You bet. Be good to one another. Stay kind. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Guiding Grief podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Welzenbach. Grief is a profound experience, but you're not alone. Let's continue to navigate this journey together. If you have any thoughts, questions, or topics you'd like us to explore, reach out. Until next time, be kind to yourself, find strength in your resilience, and always hold on to hope. Before we end, I'd like to give a quick thank you to KCAT TV for producing our show. Please remember, be good to one another.